do not want to be consistently walking back this often. When you walk back this much, it just allows your opponent to run at you the entire time. You're just walking back, not looking for anything, not doing anything. Like you might, at most, you might be looking for jump, but looking for green dash, you're not looking for it. Looking for fireball to react to, you're not looking for it. So quite literally, you're not choosing any options and you're just waiting for things to happen to you. Hopefully they work out in your favor, not reacting to jumps, not reacting to anything. One thing that I want to know off of this sequence here is that we've seen DI from him thus at this point twice. So this is something that we're going to have to keep in mind while we're playing him, is that he is ready and willing to press DI. Okay, let's go back here because we are definitely struggling in this situation here. Okay, he goes for overhead, he whiffs overhead. This would be your opportunity to press crouching medium punch. So let's suppose in this situation here, I'm in your case and I want to deal with someone like pressing inadvertently against me, right? I'll take that opportunity, get out the corner, right? Now I can get out the corner and then do whatever I want to do and then run my offense that way, right? Because this ideally is the button you should be fishing for, because obviously you can't just go for a low forward drive rush because you're going to burn yourself out, right? The goal is to not burn yourself out. So if you're not sure of the situation, you can also go for this, right? Where you go for a crushing medium punch into light scissor kick. The reason why we choose light scissor kick is that, you know, just in case you're wrong, the punish won't be OD. But if you go for a larger option, you can go for that as well. But this will get you out of the situation and then put them into a situation where they have to guess against you. Or alternatively, if you want to be more bold, then we can go for an option like this, right? And then force them to guess. The situation directly after that, right? After he whiffs this, you don't press, then he presses a normal, okay? After the normal, we block. After this is technically our turn. Okay, the reason why it's our turn is because he's -2 off of that situation. Now that we understand that he's -2 off of that situation, all we simply need to do is block and use a button in return. But because we keep trying to press in inopportune moments, it looks like we're trying to press parry in some of these moments. If you play on like a controller, you might want to consider using a macro. This does look like a macro input with that said, but I'm not exactly sure why you're getting hit this often trying to press parry. So if you clicked on this video, I'm sure you need some help. Lord knows I did at some point. But here's the thing, you want your favorite content creators to come and help you, but let's be real, they're charging like $60 per hour. You don't need that, but when I got you good. Over on this channel, I do free coaching sessions on Tuesdays and on Thursdays at 6:30 p.m. EST. So what does that look like? I essentially go over your matches. I can give you tools so that you can succeed the next time you open up rank. So once again, join my Discord. Wait till I'm live either on Tuesdays or on Thursdays, 6:30 p.m. EST. Be there or be square. And yeah, I'm not your favorite pro, but I'm available. Those pros are not available. Back to the video. So let's suppose here, instead of trying to say do some weird shimmy type situation, we maintain this space. Okay, the reason why we want to maintain this space, once he gets up, immediately after he gets up, the type of room that he's trying to control, you see how you entered in that space? This space or this box represents his range of what he can do and what buttons he can press. Okay, this includes his stand fears, this includes his crouching medium kick. If we're able to stay out of this range and only step into this range while already active, we can control how much he goes about the game. This is what is known as keeping out of the kill box. Okay, when you can control this space a lot better, this is why you see a lot of pro players staying right out of this range. They instinctively know how to stay out of this range. So keeping out of this range while simultaneously learning how to poke or get into this space safely is going to be the key to learning the game a little bit more intricately. Okay, so after this instance, you hit them, okay, they meshed DI, you DI'd back, but here's the issue. Now that you've done that, I don't blame you for doing it, but now that you've done that, you're now in a precarious situation. That being, number one, you have gray health here. Number two, now they're going to push them back with bomb. You have to be especially careful of not creating too much space between you and your opponent, otherwise you're going to get zoned out. So let's see how you decide to play it out. By simply not blocking, it would seem. Okay, one thing that people need to start doing is that if you have your turn, stop being afraid to get aggressive. Okay, a lot of you guys will just kind of walk back and disengage entirely, and if you disengage entirely, it's not giving you the opportunities to get started as you could have. Now here you drive rush at them. Okay, now you drive rush at them. Now you do drive rush stand jab. Okay, you do drive rush stand jab. Now your plus, now they have to guess. If you look at their health, now they have to consider, is it worth going for something like EX flip kick? If they decide to do it, now all they have left is this much. Okay, in contrast, if they go for an EX flip kick and you, with all your glory and drive meter, decide to go for EX Psycho Crusher and beat out the option that he decides to do, let's say he blocks it. If he blocks it, it hurts this. If he gets hit, he gets hit. You know what I mean? And at the end of the day, we want to force this down to 0 so we can be more insistent on our offense. Okay, so in this instance here, we hit him with the loop-de-loop. It was beautiful, it was lovely, but now how do we convert this to a win? Okay, he mashed on every situation, he went for EX up kicks. What are you going to decide to do? Okay, now if I were a betting man, I would try and risk it on something like this. It gets in their face and forces a guess. Now if they happen to jump over it, they kind of get you. But the thing about this is that even if they block this, EX Psycho Crusher is plus. So you see how you're +1 off of that instance? Because you're plus, you can enforce your will and then get started that way. You know what I mean? And then by this, you can force a win. Okay, I didn't get my level 1, but you can essentially enforce your will upon them and make them guess, right? If they block it, you're plus. If they get hit, they get hit, and then you can enforce a situation where you do something like this, and then you can win the game very easily. So by far, I would say you chose the 2 worst times to go for this. After he went for raw dash is not the opportunity where you want to be building up your startup. Okay, ideally here, this would be a good opportunity to go for it, right? If he jumps over your head, he jumps over your head. You're not likely to get punished or punished hard. After he whiffs jump, this would be another opportunity, especially because you were holding down back into down back. These are situations where you can enact it a lot easier. Right after he does dash here, you try and go for it. Now you back up for space instead of battling him up close. Remember, when you have burnout, a lot of the advantage is in your corner. Granted, you can't be foolish with it, but you still have advantage. That doesn't work. Level 1 loses to projectiles. Just something to note, we're gonna throw this in there, nothing too serious, but it was a good bait. But the moment you notice this, it is good nature or good habit to parry this, especially when you're low on drive gauge, because it gives you more than enough drive gauge to close out, right? You need the drive gauge, and you need to make sure that you're forcing a situation where you can be a little bit more frugal with your decision making, right? Now, granted, you don't have to do this, but there'll become situations where you're gonna need the extra drive gauge and you're gonna wish you did level. Okay, so moving on to the second game here, you immediately get hit by two of them. We're not trying to parry. We're not really trying to deal with these situations too well. So in these cases, let me show you something that you could be trying to do a little bit better. So while you're trying to approach here, it would be in good form to try and perfect parry. Why? Because you can take a bunch of space in doing so. Now, if you mess up or you don't get it, right? You don't get anything. But it's very important that at the very least we're trying to get it, because we want to be interrupting them whenever we can and get our party started from there. Okay, so one thing that I'm starting to notice, and this is with a lot of players, so I don't really blame you, but the methods of approach tend to be very similar almost every time. Now, that being, we either choose jump, we just walk into their buttons without trying to check space. We just generally, we're not using drive rush to circumvent neutral at all. We're kind of just taking all of this on the chin. That was good. That was great. Okay, take a turn. This is ridiculous, guys. Take a turn. Okay. So, God, what are you guys doing? This is, I get it, okay? You don't want to deal with it, I understand, but this is nonsense, okay? Maybe you're memeing, maybe you got tired of him holding down back, but we have answers to do so, okay? The thing about your opponent is that your opponent is going to hold down back for their life. That's what Guile does. But what do we do about these types of situations? So, if we're in this situation, obviously we try and perfect the booms, but let's take space, okay? Let's be a little bit more proactive. We have this option, we can take it, right? If we have options out of this mess, okay? On top of which, you can either be like aggressive here with a little bit of like just a raw drive rush, make yourself +2 in their face, and go from there. Like, you know, take space, be aggressive, make a decision. But the thing is that because you're so afraid of getting flip kicked, you don't take any action. And this is a very common thing when people are fighting Guile, is that they're so afraid of flip kick just coming out at any point in time, is that they just decide to do nothing. Okay, so let's talk about something that I saw during this game. You did scissor kick right there, and you happened to get hit by DI because he saw you walking back out of range, because you have a habit of walking back into scissor kick, okay? You created that habit for yourself, all right? You walk back, you do scissor kick, okay? Then we fast forward a little bit further, and we see a similar situation occur again. The thing about doing this is that you've now created a habit that your opponent can exploit. Another thing that I would like to note is that especially with a character such as yourself that has a long-reaching sweep, you can actually punish this, right? This is something that I encourage a lot of people to do because we do not want him activating this for free, right? It's something, especially you as Bison, can punish it pretty consistently and pretty easily actually. And then it's also something that we want to make sure that we're showing so that our opponent doesn't think that they can get away with something like that on a consistent basis. Okay, so watching this entire sequence here, you are walking back way too much for a character that ain't got no projectile. I just want you to watch for a second. I'm just gonna speed it up a little bit, but just watch how much walking back you do the entire time. You're just being bullied the entire time, and you got bullied nearly corner to corner, right? This is something you need to keep in mind while you're playing the game, is that you do not want to be consistently walking back this often. When you walk back this much, it just allows your opponent to run at you the entire time. Okay, you're just walking back, not looking for anything, not doing anything. Like you might, at most, you might be looking for jump, but looking for green dash, you're not looking for it. Looking for fireball to react to, you're not looking for it. So quite literally, you're not choosing any options and you're just waiting for things to happen to you. Hopefully they work out in your favor, not reacting to jumps, not reacting to anything. So what I'd say is that if you're going to take this defensive approach where you're playing a turtle style, you need to make sure that you're not wasting time or just not doing anything at all. Right after this, we just hold parry. We're not doing anything about it. He presses crouch jab, right? And then he immediately presses the standing heavy punch, right? So let's suppose in this situation, I'm in that situation for you, right? If I see the fact that your opponent is going for something like this, I'm gonna poke back because I noticed that you can't do anything else, right? I'm gonna poke back because the reality is that he has to go into another normal. Now the other normal that he might choose, it might be low forward, it might be a heavy button, but the reality is he can't choose anything that will be like interruptible for your fastest normal. So we want to make sure that we're going ahead and checking that when it comes, because otherwise we're going to be letting our opponent get away with nonsense, but we really shouldn't be. So after this situation here, right, you get pushed back. Okay, after he pushed you back, right? Again, this is where having a defensive approach comes into handy, right? You want to be ready to check these things because checking drive rush allows your opponent, if you don't check it, it allows your opponent to do whatever to you. And because we don't want to be put in that situation consistently, we want to be making sure that we're checking it and enforcing our will at that, right? If we're able to do that consistently, now we can enforce something like this and then get our will started from there. Fortunately, he woke up with the eye because of the bot, but it'd be what it be. So let's talk about this final instance here. Okay, after this, right, we're holding down back, we tried to hit charge, we messed up our charge. What can we do? Okay, your last vestige or your last hope here is to anti this. But because we held this part, that's what led into this, in which you could not do anything, right? Granted, his combo routing is terrible and his decision making is terrible. The other option you had here was to parry this and go for an option like wake up super or whatever have you, right? You had one of two options, or you could even wake up drive reversal in this instance, right? Because if we wake up drive reversal in this instance and we have a fresh set of gauge too, immediately afterwards we can go for EX, and then if we're lucky we can potentially get something like this, right? And now we flipped it on its head. We're a lot closer to winning. Granted, we don't really want to burn ourselves out, but we're a lot closer to winning than we were before, right? And at the very least, it can enforce a situation where you can win. So if they don't block this, if they don't block it, then you're plus, like I mentioned before. But if you do happen to block it, then you know, you're still plus. You could obviously still wake up. You can wake up super. If you wake up super, we can enact the same sort of situation, right? If I see my opponent and it's the last guess, and if I see them trying to set up Sonic Blade, I'm just gonna, like, you know, let it rip. It does mad damage, and even without drive gauge, I can still do a lot of damage and set up for a kill, right? Especially because I have a lot of drive gauge to work with. I can enforce plus frames that you can't do very much about aside from level 1. But those are the types of things that I want to see from you moving forward. So once again, thank you for watching. Any questions?